Okay, so today was a, a very eventful day by any measure, you know, and in some respects, it worked out really well. And in some respects, it was a little bit sad that some people don't understand that in this life, that we have the ability and the opportunity to ask questions. And that is fundamental to a democracy. Okay? It's quite obvious that there were some people at the town hall who didn't understand that we live on the soils of the United States of America. Okay? Where democracy reigns supreme. And the First Amendment, okay, the freedom of speech, is critical. And it's fundamental to the United States. And it's fundamental to New Yorkers. Okay? So it's kind of sad that some of the people who were present at the town hall didn't understand that. They sort of acted like people who have not familiarized themselves with what is fundamental to New Yorkers and what is fundamental to America. Okay? But in all of this, I'm not going to castigate the whole audience. I'm not going to paint them all with one brush because amazingly, there were so many people that spoke to me after the town hall and they themselves felt disappointed. They felt disgusted by the response of some. Okay? And people don't understand. A lot of the people who were there, some of them are my friends. Some of them are my acquaintances that I've known for years. So if you thought you were going to try to disrespect me, you didn't disrespect me. What you did is that you disrespected yourselves. Sadly, you disrespected yourselves. And if you felt like you were trying to get one over me and you were trying to boo me and that was going to have some sort of impact on the way I felt, well, you obviously don't know who you're dealing with. Okay? Again, I always tell you guys, we are Wolf men. We back strong and we back big. So you can't shake us. You can't move us. Okay? But the bottom line in all of this, and one thing I want to, in some respects, applaud the Prime Minister, okay? Because he handled the situation with dignity, okay? He was able to remind the crowd that, look, this gentleman deserves to ask questions, okay? So I want to say kudos to him, okay? He acted with dignity. Okay, he acted with respect, and eventually I was able to ask my questions. Okay, you would notice that the two questions were very pertinent. One was that why did we have a groundbreaking and all we had was a concept plan? Nobody had a problem with that question when I asked that question, and the Prime Minister did an excellent job of answering that question. But you guys tried to disrespect him a bit. Notice I was cordial, I was respectful, everything was going well until I asked the question about money, the accountability of money. And that is a question that every Grenadian should welcome because we should want to know how the hard-earned taxpayer dollars of Grenadians are being spent. Okay? But it seemed like that caused the stir. But the Prime Minister, he was honest. And again, kudos to him. Because he said and he answered basically that, look, I did have the groundbreaking at the concept phase because I didn't want the naysayers or people to think that we weren't doing anything. That yes, we were actually going to do something. So that is reasonable. I could understand that. Okay, I can understand that, look, you wanted to rile up the people a bit and create a lot of enthusiasm and excitement about Polaris. And he was honest. He said, yeah, that pretty much was the intention. Okay, so it wasn't because it was a real, authentic or true groundbreaking in the sense of a standard groundbreaking of starting a project when you have a full architectural plan. He was honest. And I appreciate the honesty that PM Deacon Mitchell showed at the town hall. So kudos to him. But obviously you guys interrupted when the next question was the accountability on the money spent by the sponsor. And interestingly, if you realize, Miss Pat from Perkins and Wills, I don't know if she was intimidated when you guys started to act up, or she realized the question might have been political in a sense. She did not answer. Because she knows what I was saying was correct. And as I said to them plainly, I know the numbers. It costs $50 million to create a full set of architectural plans. It hovers around that number. And we have spent over 22 million, which is almost half of the 50 million. And yet still all the current administration has to show for that 22 million is a concept plan. And of course, the PM, I mean, I understand that's not really his domain. He had to be political about it and smart about it. So he says, oh, well, there are people we carry around, we're expert, So I understand all of that. But we would like to see a breakdown so that we're not being taken for a ride and people are not recklessly spending the money of the Grenadian taxpayer. Okay? And the PM did say, so I guess you people locally can look into it, that they're very transparent with the expenses. Okay? So maybe they have a breakdown to show exactly what the 22 million was spent on. The impression I'm getting from the PM, that's what he said, that they're very transparent with their expenses. So hopefully someone locally can look into what that 22 million was spent on. But all in all, it was a wonderful evening. I think it was well planned. Okay. So in some respects, I believe the people on the New York end did a pretty good job of setting this up. And I think the people on stage came prepared. That was a good thing. And I'm very happy that I got partially my question answered. And again, kudos to the Prime Minister for handling the situation pretty well. Okay? So in everything, there's an opportunity. And I, too, got an opportunity to remind the people in the audience that we are in the United States of America, where the First Amendment reigns supreme. We're not in a socialist, Marxist, or communist outfit. And you saw me saying that in the middle of the, quote unquote attack, I said to them, look, have some respect for the Prime Minister, because you were disrespecting yourself. It's not like I was shaken or moved by what you did. Absolutely not. Quite to the contrary. It was just shameful in some respects that you had to respond that way. But as I said, I'm not going to castigate the whole audience. There were many wonderful people there who I spoke to after, who came up to me and it's like, I didn't appreciate what was done. You know what I'm saying? So there were many great people in that audience. There were a few who still probably trying to adjust to life in New York and life in America and do not understand the fundamental values that we cherish so much in the United States. Hopefully, they'll make the transition. So the bottom line is this. It is only the GSDP, the Grenada Social Democratic Party, that has the ability, that has the guts to ask the tough questions that needed to be asked and are able to get these questions answered. It's only the GSDP that's going to be able to ask these tough questions, and do not stop asking these questions until we get a response. So, for real change, I want to remind you that the St. George Northeast constituency, our candidate, Mr. Nicholas McMillan, is the only viable candidate in the St. George Northeast constituency. And as you have seen, under the umbrella of the GSDP, we will continue to ask the tough questions. So, there's a home for many of you, who may be hesitant, but you have a home in the GSDP. If you feel that you want to ask tough questions and you want to hold administrations accountable, then there's a place in the GSDP for you. You see what we're capable of. Okay? And this is a sort of climate of holding administrations accountable and being responsible with the spending of the Grenadian taxpayer money. Okay? So, this is what you are going to get from the GSDP. Again, for real change, vote for Nicholas Macmillan in the St. George Northeast constituency. Guten Abend.
So go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. I hope New Yorkers are treating you well. From all looks, I can see that they're treating you well.
They're treating me well, yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, Ms. Andrea San Bernard, I noticed that you've touted the expertise of Perkins and Wills. So I just wanted to ask something that had me really concerned, that in the receipt of a concept plan by the administration, which represents 15%, a little under 15% of the complete architectural plans that are required for construction, that you initiated a groundbreaking. So I would like, I guess Ms. Pat can chime in on that. I would like to try to understand, why would you initiate a groundbreaking which actually signals the start of construction when you have a full set of architectural plans at a concept phase? And I will also, some of us are familiar with the numbers. So we know that the full architectural plan costs 50 million.
All right, guys, all right.
Slow down, guys.
Hold on.
Slow down. This is not a communist outfit. This is not a communist outfit. This is the United States of America, where the First Amendment reigns supreme.
All right, guys, all right.
Have a little respect for your Prime Minister.
All right, guys.
Have a little respect for your Prime Minister. Please. Slow down, cowboys and cowgirls. Have a little respect for your Prime Minister. Don't be disgraceful. Please.
All right, guys, thank you. Please, he's entitled to ask the question, so let him finish and then we'll respond to the question.
As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted. Okay, so wait, again, as I have said, this is not a communist outfit.
Sir.
This is the United States of America.
Hello, sir.
I'm happy to answer.
All right.
Thank
Let's
you.
continue directing the question to the panel, please. Thank you.
Again, to the panel.
Right. So, thank you.
I have the second part to the question. That we noticed that $22 million was expended so far. Some of us are very familiar with the numbers on this project. So we know that a full architectural plan costs about 50 million, but you've expended 22 million thus far. So we're trying to, we would like you to explain what that 22 million was expended on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you.
All right, guys.